Hello and welcome to the Boys Upstairs Show. This is Texans versus Ravens.
Woo!
So obviously, the Houston Texans shocked the world, shocked Cameron Williams, shocked the city of Cleveland last week. Taking care of business at home. CJ Stroud looked like a rookie phenom. Nobody expected him to play as good as he did in that playoff game. The Texans are going into Baltimore. Ravens are -9.5. Total's 44.5. We'll give it to Jake Lewis.
Listen, I know what you're all thinking. Jake's a huge Lamar fan. He thinks the Ravens are going to win by 30. Gentlemen, I'm a little nervous. This Texans team has absolutely no fear. The Browns, you could argue on defense, had a top 5, maybe top 3 defense in the league, and they put 45 points on them. Even though I think 2 touchdowns were pick sixes, still, they dominated the Browns. And CJ Stroud, everyone keeps talking, he's a rookie. I don't at this point, I don't view him as that anymore. He's just a great quarterback. He has proven it to be, at least for this year, a great quarterback. He's played in big games at Ohio State. I remember in the college football playoff, they snuck in. They played in Atlanta in the Georgia Dome, or I forget what it's called now, but whatever, against Georgia, kind of a road game. And he sliced and diced, and they were a missed kick away from beating Georgia, which has been one of the best college football programs in the last few years, probably the best. They won 29 straight games. I actually think the Ravens, the week off, hurt them, and really was 2 weeks off because they haven't played all their starters since the game they played the Miami Dolphins. Cam, sorry to bring that up. I'm going to pick the Texans to cover +9.5. I think the Ravens, there's a lot of pressure on Lamar. He has not played great in the postseason. I think that he'll be more dialed in than he was the year they lost to the Tennessee Titans, when he had a pretty poor game coming off an MVP season, when, again, same situation, they had the extra week. I expect them to pull away, but the Texans could probably backdoor cover here, and I expect the Ravens to win like 28-20. But I actually do believe this will be closer than what the spread suggests, and I actually am picking the Texans to cover, but the Ravens to win.
I agree with a lot of what you said there. And I was wrong last week. I came in saying that I think the Texans are great. I think Stroud's great. I just didn't think they were there yet, and they need some time. But it's playoff football. You never know what's going to happen. And I think the philosophy that I took on last week was it's about like preparation and what teams have done and what you got to prepare for and plan for and all that. But I think in the end of the day, what the Texans did so well last week was they didn't play scared. They came out and said, I don't give a shit if your defense is the best in the league or the worst in the league. We're going to come out here and play our game and let it rip, which I loved. And I think that was a huge part of their success, because you look at some of the teams this weekend. I can point out the Dolphins. Sorry, Cam. They looked like they were scared. Like they were
Cowboys.
The Cowboys, like they were
Eagles.
afraid to lose more than wanted to win. And this is the same kind of thing that the Packers did. And I think that's why that Love and Stroud had similar success, was because they came out and they knew what their offense is good at. They know what their team is good at. And they said, you know what? Fuck the Browns defense. We're good at this. We're going to stick to this. And they went out and let CJ Stroud do his thing. They let him throw the deep ball. They didn't try to change it up because of who they were playing. And I think more NFL teams need to look at that and then use that as an example, because DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Slowick outcoached the shit out of Stefanski and Jim Schwartz, and Jim Schwartz especially, because Stefanski calls the offense there. But yeah, it's tough, especially with a 9-point spread here. I think that's a little bit of overcompensating for what happened last weekend. But the Ravens, on the other hand, this is probably the best Ravens team we've seen in a couple of years. And it's funny because you look at that roster, and especially on offense, and you're like, dude, Lamar's best receiver is like Zay Flowers.
He's a rookie.
Arguably, or Isaiah Likely at this point. Who knows? But yet they still go out and they still put up points. They still win games dominantly. And they are a tough team to play. And I think this year could be their year. But it's hard to not believe in the Texans to cover 9 points here. Because while that Ravens defense is so dangerous, and so good, especially against good offenses. They shut that Miami offense down. I was in awe when I saw that in person. I think Stroud's going to come out there slinging it, and I think the Ravens are going to come out there doing what they're used to and playing their game too. So I think it'll be a fun matchup because the Ravens are also a team that play like that, where they're never really playing scared against people. Harbaugh never coaches scared. They never call the offense or defense scared. They always want to win. They always want to go out there and win. And so I'm also going to take the over. I think, what was it, 43 and a half?
44.
44 and a half. Yeah, I'm the over either way. I think there's going to be points scored here. I think we're going to see a decent amount of points scored. As a Marylander myself, it's going to be cold on Saturday, I believe, right after a snowstorm, but I don't think we're going to see any extreme weather conditions, nothing that the Ravens aren't used to, and nothing that should really affect the outcome of this game unless Stroud can't play in the cold, but he was a Buckeye, so I don't see that affecting him too much. But yeah, I think the Ravens are going to come away with this one, but I think the Texans are going to make it a fight, and I think they're going to make it a pretty good fight. And I think we're going to see some points, so buckle up. This one could be a good one.
In this game, and I just want to say that I apologize for doubting the Houston Texans last week. I hate the Cleveland Browns. It was very hard for me to take the Cleveland Browns last week. I was wrong about their defense. I think a lot of us are wrong about their defense. And Houston took care of business, and I'm very excited for what the Houston Texans could be in the future and what the Houston Texans are right now at such a young age. CJ Stroud and all of their weapons and their defense, and D'Amico Ryans is a first-year head coach. The Houston Texans have a very exciting future. Houston Texans have a very, exciting playoff run in the moment last week, beating Cleveland at home, but that ends this week. And I know that we pick spreads on this show, and 9.5 is a lot of points, but I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens minus 9.5. I think that the story this week is Lamar. I think that Lamar has a lot of pressure. I think that I hate when people talk about this, like Cal Hurt and them, who's under the most pressure in the playoffs. I think that it would be Lamar. I think that Lamar has had more hate, more unwarranted hate over the last few years than anybody else. And especially for somebody as good as he is, he's about to be a 2-time MVP. I think that this is a perfect opportunity against a young team at home in Baltimore. It's going to be cold as shit. Houston played in a dome last week. They're a dome team. I think that the Baltimore Ravens are going to take care of business this week. Next week, they're going to have to play Kansas City or Buffalo possibly, and that's going to be, a very tough game, a legacy game for Lamar. And I think that they're going to take care of business at home handily this week. So Ravens minus 9.5 is my pick.
CJ Stroud, he's basically played in 2 playoff games already. Winner go home, he was 20 for 26. Real playoff game, he was 15 for 21 or 16 for 21. The Texans have a great defense. And Lamar, let's not forget, Lamar is an underperformer in the playoffs. He's had a really bad playoff run. He's 1-3 in the playoffs. He won't be able to rely on the run game because the Texans have an amazing front seven. So he won't be able to rely on the run game. He's going to have to sit in the pocket and dice it up. And yes, he's played at an MVP level, but we've seen him play at an MVP level before. And he didn't. I think he lost in his first playoff game. Maybe he won the first game and then lost the second one. He's a playoff underperformer. So far, the Texans have been overperforming, and I'm the ride the hot hand. We've seen this with the Bengals a couple years ago, or the Rams a couple years ago. The young hot teams that sometimes you don't expect it. They're ready and they go on low runs and they get some confidence. And the Texans seem like they have confidence through the roof. I mean, the Ravens are obviously really good. They've been the best team all year. They've been blowing out the best teams. I'm also taking the over because this game is definitely going to have points scored. So Texans plus 9.5.
The Ravens are going to suppress Houston defensively. And even if the Texans do get the numbers that they want, even if CJ Stroud does throw for 250 or 300, there's a really good chance that when he gets to the red zone, he's probably going to get shut down, considering that they only put him 9 points last game and he had 300 yards. So even though it's a lot of points, I feel like this is another game like with the Steelers and Bills. Like it was 10.5, and like we all said, that was disrespectful to the Steelers. But Vegas knows something that we don't. So the Ravens have the strength to back it up with the Vegas numbers. So I'm taking the Ravens spread.
Does Vegas know?
They don't know, but I feel like
playoffs. I really don't think they do in the playoffs.
They're reacting to last week. There was a lot of blowout.
Yeah, I think it's more reactionary than it is pro.
There were a lot of bad games.
I think it's reactionary.
So underwhelming.
It was a bad weekend. Like for the NFL, it was not a good weekend.